Let's go. Welcome back. Thursday morning. Hope you have a lovely Thursday morning. I'm going to do something a little different here. Something I haven't done in quite some time. In fact, only once before. I'm not going to play a live 5-0 game. I'm going to show you a game that I played last night. For a very specific reason. This game that I played last night featured a move that's being discussed at great length on Twitter, on X, at least in the chess community. A very strange, alien, computer-esque move. Move is Bishop C8. Now, I'm going to get back to the context of this Bishop C8 and more chess drama, more shocking chess drama that happened just this week. But let me show you this game that I played last night, featuring this move, Bishop C8. And I do have some 8-bit music prepared. Let's go. Is this the one? No, let's go. So in the game last night, opponent opens with 1e4. I play 1e5. Best by test. My opponent brings her knight to f6, f3. I play knight c6. Opponent strikes at the center. I grab the pawn. Opponent develops her bishop. I do the same. Opponent plays c3. And now, normally I don't take here because that speedily develops this knight. So I just develop my knight. Opponent presses past. Now this is the Greco gambit. And in fact, this is the exact same position that I played in the last game that I published, my 5-0 content. And in that game that I published, I played this d5, just like I played last night. But in the game that I published, my opponent took here after d5, and then I took here. Last night we had something a little different. d5, bishop slides over, getting the knight. I bring my knight to safety. Opponent snaps off the knight. I take. Opponent takes here. And I play this check. Now, I did look at this game after with the computer, but not thoroughly. I didn't look at this position. I looked at some positions later on. Imagine the best computer move is developing the knight. But okay, my opponent brings this knight back. I go for this cheapo. It's mate in 1. Opponent defends. And I play another fun move, this f5. Knowing, of course, that if pawn takes, g pawn takes, and I get the semi-open g file to work with. That happens, and my opponent snaps off the knight. I missed also last night that I can actually take with the queen here because this square is covered. There's no skewer. But okay, I'm just a chess noob, a chess enthusiast, an untitled chess nerd, but I played this, taking here. Opponent chases my bishop back, and then develops her bishop on this diagonal. I tempo the queen, developing the bishop tempo. Queen steps aside, and I castle. Finally castling, pinning this pawn. Opponent develops a knight, going after my e-pawn. I ignore that threat, bring my rook to the g-file. Opponent snaps off my e-pawn. I press forward with my f-pawn. Knight goes back, and I continue to press forward with this f-pawn, knowing that if bishop takes, rook takes, forking both the queen and the bishop. Here, I made a really bad mistake. After my opponent brings their queen over to a2, I was just looking at this, and I missed this long diagonal attack. The rook is loose. So I grab at the bishop. Opponent grabs here, gives me a bit of a shock. I bring my king to safety, and the opponent brings the rook over. And this is the magical moment where I see that bishop c8 is available. I have a little bit of a laugh to myself. I actually laughed out loud. And I even put it in chat. Bishop c8. I typed in chat, hoping for some miraculous power of Bishop c8 to help me win this game. Opponent didn't react. And for the context of the Bishop c8, so in a match played between Daniel Naroditsky and Wesley So a couple years ago, the move wasn't even played in the game. It was just mentioned as an interesting idea by Daniel Naroditsky. Dania played the top engine move. The second engine recommendation was this Bishop c8, this weird looking move. And he mentioned that it looks interesting. And that was enough for Vladimir Kramnik to make a couple videos. A couple years later, he just published them 2 days ago. The video is titled Don't Look Up Part 3. And Vlad claims that this move is just impossible for a human to see, even a GM, a super GM, a former world champion. Vlad asked some of his colleagues. Even Anish Giri chimed in saying it's not findable. Jan Nepomniachtchi chimed in saying no. His whole candidates team had looked at this while they're in Toronto, and they couldn't find an explanation for it. So the chess world wants to know, what is this explanation? Not of my bishop c8. This is just for jokes, but of this bishop c8 that was played in the game between Daniel Naroditsky and Wesley So. This is what happened in my game after I played bishop c8. Queen comes over, and yeah, I can't explain this. I think I was just still reeling from the humor of playing bishop c8, the novelty of it. My opponent snaps off the pawn, and if I want any chances, I can't trade queens. So I step the queen aside. Opponent insists on a queen trade. I say no, man. Queen goes back. I redevelop the bishop back into the game, tempoing the queen, and you can't push this pawn because there's a pin here. Let's keep an eye on this diagonal. Queen steps aside. Rook continues to harass the queen, afforded by the protection of this bishop on this diagonal. Queen steps aside, and now I have this idea to bring the rook here. Opponent attacks on the queen side. I create some lift for my bishop. Opponent presses on. And here the computer move I did check is obviously just to go after this maiden one. You don't have time to take the bishop because there's a mate. But okay, I missed that too. I drop the bishop back. Here my opponent chases the bishop. And here I knew, of course, that the knight is loose because of this pin. I was considering these two moves. And the computer recommendation, of course, is to take the knight. Idea is if queen takes, pawn takes, you can't stop this. But anyways, I snapped off the pawn with the rationale that if pawn takes, I'll get some play here with the open g-file. My opponent wants a queen trade, so I finally snap off the knight, taking advantage of this pin. Rook comes in. I snap off the rook, and this is the last mistake of the game. You have to take with this pawn because there's a mate threat on the board. The queen and the bishop are coordinating with this mate. Queen has to defend. I can't explain it. I think it was just a miraculous power of bishop c8 that compelled me to a win here. But my opponent grabs here. I grab with mate, with a good laugh. And immediately I thought, I'm going to make a recap video of this, taking advantage of this bishop c8 clickbait move. But I made the mistake of going onto Twitter. And as soon as I open Twitter, I see that in the US Chess Championships, after round 5, Christopher Yu, after his loss to Fabiano Caruana, crumpled up his score sheet, stormed out of the playing hall, either hit or body checked a videographer or a reporter. The police were called. Christopher Yu is expelled from the tournament. Any players with a game upcoming against him will get a rest day and a half point. So it's actually very funny that Fabi did timely get a full point against Christopher Yu before his leaving the tournament. And speaking of Grandmasters leaving tournaments, just earlier this week, Kirill Shevchenko was expelled from a tournament after a cell phone was found in the bathroom with a handwritten note that matched the handwriting of his score sheet. So, I mean, it seems quite damning, but who knows? It's under investigation. But this drama with the bishop c8 and Danya perhaps using engine assistance, I'm going to keep an open mind because I am a Danya fan. With that said, Vladimir Kramnik is the former world champion. You have to take his opinion somewhat seriously, although he has been accusing a lot of people of cheating. But let me know what you think. I will be returning with my regular scheduled content tonight, my 5-0 Blitz Chess, as soon as I get home from work. Really looking forward to that. I'll see you then. Cheers.